play with the baby log, it's pretty much the same thing. So one of the first things I'll have you do on this checkoff, if you don't have your Evita checkoff, your XL checkoff, get it out, says replace the flow sensor there. All right, there's actually two flow sensors we're dealing with on the XL. We've got the Neo flow sensor that would be kind of where the baby log sensor was. I don't know if this is working. And then we also have the flow sensor, or the expiratory flow sensor over here that you need to take out and put back in. Okay? So that goes, and notice I'm getting that alarm now. It says flow measurement out of range. It's pretty simple to put back in. A little harder to do in the dark for me. You have to replace that from time to time, so I just want you guys to know how to do that. We'll probably do this. We will do another checkoff on this ventilator next semester also, with some of the other modes that we're not covering this semester, and we'll do the same thing. We won't do another checkoff on the baby log, because it's the baby log, and we'll be focusing more on those. Inspiratory tubing, again, having done the baby log already, some of this will be fairly familiar for you. Inspiratory side is right here. Again, you can maybe go by the arrows, but sometimes these elbows get switched out, and you may find an inspiratory elbow on the expiratory side and vice versa. Probably the best way to do it is your expiratory side is over on the side with the exhalation valve and that expiratory flow sensor that I told you about. If you're good at memorizing things, which is on the right side and which is on the left side, then you can do it that way. Expiratory side is on the left as you look at the ventilator. Humidification device probably won't apply again. When we go to the hospital on Friday to do lab, I can show you, we can see the setup with an actual humidifier in place. Power on we talked about. Patient selection, I'm going to shut down I don't have a new O2 cell yet, so I'm going to shut down the O2 sensor here. Okay, let me get this back up here. On the XL, to change the patient selection, you really have to put it in standby. Go to standby. Okay, and this is one of those things that a lot of people be getting a little extra glare there, don't we? So, after we go to standby, you want to go to new patient here. Remember, if it's yellow, it hasn't been confirmed yet, so you need to confirm that. Alright, and then you'll notice that, since we're doing this on tape here, the adult ped is lit up now, okay, as in bold, so you can actually change the selection. So if we wanted to change the adult, we could do that now. We wanted to change it to pediatric, we could do that now. What I will probably have you do is just do pediatric, it's yellow, accept, okay, and now the other thing to double check would be up here, you have the little person up in the corner here, and you have peds as your selection. Now with this circuit on there and that test lung, we probably don't want to be in peds, so before we go, we'll just go back to neonatal. Confirm it, and now we're back with the baby bottle and neo. Okay? You can leave the ventilator in standby, or you can take it out. I'm going to go ahead and take it out. So I do this just like the other checkoffs. That first section, we're not on the patient yet. Okay, we're just getting the ventilator ready for a patient that's coming to us. So we can now get out of standby. I'm going to turn the oxygen down just to save O2. Alright, then it says calibrate the NeoFlow sensor. So over on the side here, this is your sensor parameter button. That's the one that brings up all your different sensors. We now have a NeoFlow. That would be the one we want to calibrate here. Start and watch for your message display up here. It says disconnect, seal NeoFlow sensor, press confirm. Sound familiar? Those of you that have done your baby log check off. So again, we don't want any flow going through the sensor, so once we've done that, and it takes just a couple seconds. And then calibrate the oxygen sensor. It's the same panel calibration. We'll go ahead and do that. We'll see what happens. And it'll appear it's going to say O2 calibration, doesn't affect ventilation or anything. So that's something you can do while it's on location. And then you can see troubleshoot and correct any problems. That's if something comes up or something weird happens and you don't figure it out, or something, you did something kind of slightly wrong but not real majorly wrong. Okay, set up in assist control mode with specific orders for rate, tidal volume, and oxygen percentage. Somebody give me some settings there. Okay, rate of 30. What else do I need? Tidal volume of 5. Okay. What else do I need? Oxygen percentage? Okay. How about an inspiratory time? Sorry? 0.4? About a P. We need that, don't we? 4, 5. Okay. 3. Probably not 2 or 1 or 0 for blast off. All right. Anything else that would be ordered there? All right. Let's bring up our ventilator settings screen. Now this is another one of those that I want you to just think about setting the trigger. So whenever you think of it, we're not on the baby yet. So a lot of you actually have found out the idea of setting your PEEP first when you're doing the baby log. Now on this ventilator, you're not going to run into that problem. That it's important that you set it up in certain order, or you might have to go back and redo things. You can kind of do them whatever order. So it's probably a good idea if you think of something to go ahead and do it. So oxygen percentage, I said 40. Remember, it doesn't take place until you confirm it. So sometimes I drive all over the road. Tidal volume of 5. 5.0, right? Inspiratory time of 0.40. Is that what we said? It's a good idea to write down all your orders on something. Slope, we'll come back to. PEEP, what did we say, 4? Okay, so that's our primary settings. Am I in assist control mode? Where's the assist control mode? Yeah. In fact, when I read that on the checkoff, I was thinking maybe I should call that something different. And that'll be a question I may ask on Friday and say, do they store it still? Because they still call it assist control on the baby log. Do they still call it assist control on when they use the XL, and they're calling it CMB? So if somebody wanted assist control, and especially with adults, because a lot of the older adult physicians, meaning physicians who take care of adults, will still order assist control. And if they say a tidal volume, then it's CMB. Okay? So the tidal volume there is kind of hint that we're going to use a CMB there. Okay, so we got the mode okay. If you want to, just think of, okay, I need to go into my additional settings. What's under my additional settings? What's one couple big things there. One is the flow trigger. Let's go with a 1.3 again on this one. And then the sigh, I think we'll just turn off. We'll talk about the sigh a little bit more when we do the adults. And then notice the auto flow is also available in the additional settings, but if we're using the NeoFlow, auto flow is automatically on, so we can't shut it off. Basically, what we're doing right now really is assist control with volume guarantee if we want reference to the baby off. Because it is adjusting the pressure to try to give us that tidal volume. Sometimes alarms, the alarms are obnoxious always, but I will warn you a little bit. Sometimes people want to address the alarms and they've forgotten to do something. So a good example, I'll show you kind of what might happen that you really don't want to happen. Let's say you're making a change. Say you change the inspiratory time to 0.5, and we're supposed to change the rate to 35. And then your alarms go off, and you don't like that noise, so you go back and readjust your alarms. Well, you forgot to confirm your rate. So just make sure you double check. It doesn't really take that long because you can bring all the settings up. Let's go back to our initial settings here. All right, so alarms, again, are under alarm limits. My minute volume alarm, sorry gang, but we don't have that nice handy auto set that we had on the baby law. That didn't help at all. All right, so right now it shows me the numbers in the middle there. There's so much glare. Oh no. Is that still okay? At least you can see something down here.
What screen did you go into to get into your alarms?
Alarm limits, so one of the soft keys over here is alarm limits. Okay. So you can see right now, well maybe you can see, focus here. 0.25, 0.47, but my minute volume is 0.14. All right. So I'm going to have to physically change, and maybe I'll make this one 0.10. Remember to confirm it. Maybe I'll make this one 0.25. Okay, right now with the tidal volume of 5, I don't have a lot of, my peak pressure is only 14, 13. So I may set this pressure limit here at maybe 30. My high tidal volume alarm, which this is the only ventilator you really have one of those. Right now my tidal volume reading is about 5.2. General rule of thumb is to set that 1.5 to 2 times. Maybe I'll pick 9. Oh, sensitive. The breathing rate alarm, notice it says frequency spontaneous. There aren't any spontaneous breaths in this mode, so you're probably not going to have to deal with that alarm. 50 is probably not a bad place to have that anyway. Apnea time, in real life, probably 10 or 15 seconds is good, although we are in CMV, so chances of apnea are not very good unless the ventilator gets disconnected. Just for classroom purposes, I might bump that back to 20. Okay, so do we set our flow trigger? Set our alarms, slope. What I'll do with slope is, what do you guys think of your curve up here? Or your pause in there? So here we have a bit of a pause. Let's say I tell you I'd like to see your pressure curve a little less square. So how would you do that?
Inspiratory time.
Okay. Well, now we have, on the baby log, we'd use inspiratory time, but now we have a slope function we can use. Let's back that off. Let's make it a little bit more gentle. And we get a little bit less of a square top on it there, because we don't hit that peak pressure as soon. Probably if you do that, you want to check your tidal volume. Right down here is our tidal volume number. We're still getting our tidal volume of 5 or around 5. So that's how I'll handle the slope one there. Remember, you don't want to set your slope any longer than your inspiratory time. All right, we got the hard section out of the way. So again, those of you that have done your baby log, for the most part, you get through that first setting, and then after that, it just goes really, really fast, right? At least it did on Monday. All right, so next we want to change the tidal volume. Give me a new number, something larger than 5. Oh, okay. Good, that'll change things drastically. All right, so what do I need to do? We're still in the same mode. Turn my tidal volume. Oh, I want to go. All right, so I get this little message here. It says, tidal volume must be set below my inspiratory tidal volume or my high tidal volume alarm. Okay, some of you ran into this during lab. So I have to go back in, change my alarm limit. So right now it wouldn't let me set my tidal volume higher than 9. Mark wanted 12. Good thing, because now we'll see some of the things that might come up during your checkoff. So I'm just going to go ahead. I know I'm going to set tidal volume 12, so let's do 1.5 times that, so about 18. And again, if you start talking or you do something else after you've selected it, you need to select it again. Yellow's an important color on this ventilator. All right, so now I have my high tidal volume alarm set. I'm not sure what my other alarms are going to be needed to be set at, so I'm going to go ahead and get my new setting. What was it, 12? Okay. Now we should see a higher pressure there. We should see a higher volume. Probably our flow curve is going to change a little bit. All right. That's one thing you want to start, that first ventilator theory test we had, some of the questions I said, well, what happens if you had go up on your tidal volume? Let me ask you that. What alarms are going to have to be changed if I go up on my tidal volume? My min volume alarm, my high pressure alarm, my high tidal volume alarm, which we already had. Would my rate alarm have to be changed? Not necessarily. It's not directly related, but remembering how some of you said your dogs didn't like those high-pitched noises when you watch the videos. I'll try to get the alarm silent a little quicker. So think about which alarms are going to need to be changed. So let's go ahead and change those now. Again, my alarm limits. I know my high is going to be, let's see, 5.4. I set that about 0.45. Now you can come up with your own magic formula. Now we have another issue here. Set that at 0.24. We're getting our volume not constant, pressure limited alarm. Okay, so that's telling me that I'm not getting enough. My pressure limit is limiting my tidal volume. I'm supposed to be getting. The peak pressure is now limited to 25, so it's actually 5 below that number. So I need to come up on this a little bit. And I'm going to go up to, I'm going to try 38. I'm not sure why I'm doing 38 right now. Okay, so our O2 monitoring off is still on. That'll stay on, but the volume not constant alarm did go off. And now I should be getting closer to my tidal volume. And now my peak pressure is actually about 28. I picked 38. That was just a wag on where to set that. I'm probably going to leave it there. This one's set because we set it ahead of time. We're still in CMB, so I'm not going to worry about that one too much. My apnea time, marginal when we're in CMB. What should happen if the baby gets disconnected? Which of the alarms of those 5 alarms should go off.
Apnea.
Apnea will probably go off, but the way we have it set will be 20 seconds before it goes off. Your low minute volume alarm hopefully will go off fairly quickly. I guess something to point out is this is exhaled minute volume, okay? So it's volume coming back from the patient. So what would happen is the ventilator sends the gas to the patient, it doesn't come back, then that low minute volume alarm should go off fairly quickly. When you're actually thinking about where to set your alarms, think about your patient, okay? If I have a baby, well, I'm going to be pretty nervous if they get disconnected from the ventilator, or if their volumes change, I'm going to set those alarms a little tighter. If I have a baby who's doing really well, maybe they're even on CPAP, and their volumes are going to be all over the place, I set those alarms a little bit wider. So that's why it's a little harder to do on a checkoff than it is in real life, because you don't really have a patient in front of you.
Where do you set your apnea alarms and stuff to usually?
Well, I think the apnea alarm is mostly important when you have a mode. Well, let me ask you this question. Which mode do you think you have the most chance of an apnea occurring on this ventilator? CPAP, right? So if the baby stops breathing, the ventilator doesn't kick in CPAP, right? So that's where your apnea alarm. So if I had a baby in CPAP, I might set that apnea alarm a little tighter. The other thing that we'll see a little bit later in the checkoff
10 seconds, 15 seconds, 12 seconds, 4 seconds, 2 seconds.
depends on the patient again.
12.5 seconds.
What's that?
12.5 seconds.
I'd stay away from the halves,
What about your
mainly because you
flow?
can't.
What do you set your flow at?
There's no flow on this one.
Not
The ventilator does, good question. And that could be a trick question, really, when you think about it. If I said, where do you set the flow on the XL? Remember, we set an inspiratory flow on the baby log. This does all the flow for you. In other words, it's doing a lot of math, so it's figuring here's your inspiratory flow curve here. What flow do I need to get this pressure 0.25 seconds, or whatever my slope is, into the inspiratory time. So it's just updating breath to breath to breath to breath and adjusts. So based on the settings that we've given it right here, and I'm going to turn this down to 21. We're going to need a lot of oxygen this summer and next fall, so we'll conserve as much as we can. What's it going to take to give the actual flow. What is my flow right now? What is my peak flow right now? That might be a little unfair because you might not be able to see the numbers. Here's my inspiratory flow. There's 2 liters per minute. There's 4 liters per minute. It looks like my inspiratory flow is only about 3 liters per minute. Now, part of that is we're dealing with a small lung here. All right. So next, any questions on that one? Did we do everything? I just redid this checkoff, I think, after last year recently. So hopefully it's one of the more clean ones. There's some things I've realized I still want to change on the baby log too, maybe do different for next year. All right, so now we want to change the peak. Any ideas? I should give you, let's say our saturation is 84%, and we don't want to increase the oxygen, and we don't want to increase the inspiratory time. Keep of 6? Okay. Aha! You're anticipating my next question. What's going to change now on this ventilator when I increase my peak? Well, something will change. The main thing that's going to change is your peak airway pressure, okay? Because we're up in our baseline. It's still going to try to put in the 12 because that's what we're telling it to do, okay? But it's going to take a little bit more pressure. Now, if you remember, our peak pressure was about 28. Our alarm's at 38. I should still be able to fit in a peak increase of only 2 in there. We'll see what happens. Again, making changes on this ventilator is not that difficult. I keep saying those of you who have done your baby log checkoff, and I'm going to say it again, those of you who have done your baby log checkoff, you've done the most difficult ventilator checkoff of this semester, okay? That was probably the hardest one, I would say. I'm trying to give some consolation here a little bit, or a little bit of consoling. So there's a peep of 6. I made my change, right? We should see, oh, it didn't freeze it soon enough. Okay, you should see your baseline go up. What's my tidal volume? Same, right? Okay, that's going to be different on this ventilator. But let's go back. I would get in the habit, just like many of you have been doing a really nice job on the baby log, just go back and check your alarms after you make every change. Really, this shouldn't change. My vent volume shouldn't change. We're still the same rate. We're still the same tidal volume. My peak airway pressure did go up to 32. I actually got a bigger bump than I thought I would. We may actually be, 6 might be making that lung even less compliant by putting in too much PEEP there. Okay, so I'm going to bump this up. I don't like to go above 40 if I can help it, so I'm going to put that at 40. Tidal volume alarm shouldn't really need to be changed. We're still in CMV, the breaths per minute, and our apnea time, I'll leave at 20. So hopefully things will go off less. All right, now we're going to do something, and now for something completely different. Do SIMB. And let's turn the rate down. New tidal volume. Now that was a little high. Let's do 10. FiO2 we'll just do. Inspiratory time we'll do 0.35. Peak let's do 3 this time. So I'll probably give you a whole new amount of settings. All right. So, any ideas in order we should change this? Well,
Change the mode first.
okay, if you change the mode first, you can do everything and then change everything at once, or you can change the mode first. Notice I have both. This is still yellow, and I made the change, and that's still yellow. Okay, that's still yellow. That's still. All right, so you can do everything and just whoosh, make it change all at once. I don't mind if you change the mode first. I don't think it hurts anything to switch from assist control or CMV to SIMV here. All you're going to do is now some of those mechanical breaths might be spontaneous breaths, which you're counting on anyway. Okay? Spent too much time talking. I don't have the yellowness anymore. So tidal volume 10. And that changed. Did I say 0.35? I'm trying to go by memory.
Yes.
25.
Yes.
I said 3 here.
Yep.
Okay. I'm still. This is where if you try to do it that way, this is where it gets tricky. Make sure I still have not changed the SIMV mode, so make sure you still confirm it that last time. Okay. Now I'm in SIMV. With my new settings. Might not be a bad time to think about, since it's up there, my additional settings. Okay, notice there's something there now that wasn't there before. And there's actually something missing that was there before, but we won't dwell on that too much. Now, since I have spontaneous breathing mode, I have apnea ventilation active. So what we want to do is select our apnea ventilation and just make sure our pressures and our rate are acceptable for that. I might set a rate of 30. That's what we had them on when they were in. And then this pressure is a little bit high for me. Notice this says delta P apnea. So that's going to add it onto the PEEP. My PEEP's 3. If my baby becomes apneic, it's going to give them a breaths that are a peak pressure of 36. That's a little bit too high. Let's knock that down to baby 20. So this is one of those. I'm not going to tell you to set your apnea settings, okay, on that section. You just need to kind of remember it. It might not be a bad idea when you pull up the ventilator settings to make your changes, just think about if there, or look at if there's anything you need to do in that additional settings section. Okay, because that wasn't available before. We're going to leave our apnea settings on. Okay. What do you think of my slope?
Good. Good.
Looks pretty good still, I think. Am I getting my tidal volume okay? If I'm not getting my tidal volume, that's when I start messing with the slope and the inspiratory time and things. But I want a tidal volume of 10, right? And I'm getting 10.4, 10.3. Notice, some of you will probably give a sigh of relief, but notice you're not going to be turning that pip knob to try to get that tidal volume just where you want it. Set tidal volume to 10, kind of forget about it. All right. My ventilator conveniently is reminding me that I need to reset my alarms, okay? I'm right on this one, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit. And I'm not going to be too critical of where you set those numbers for now. I mean, if right now my minute volume exhaled is 0.24, you know, if you set it at 5 liters, then that's probably a little too high. But okay, my PIP, or my peak airway pressure now is down to 22. And we dropped our PEEP, and we dropped our tidal volume, so we dropped our peak airway pressure. Andy, what'd you say? Okay, that's fine. Sounds good to me. And it's up to you. The inspiratory tidal volume alarm, it's still twice. If you want to stay, well, just for the sake of changing it. Now, do we have spontaneous breathing in this mode?
Yes.
Okay, this is when your spontaneous breathing alarm comes in important. How many breaths do I want this baby to take before they hit a ceiling and I want to be told?
60.
60? 50, 60? Okay. Well, we're on 50. Let's just say 60. Again. Now, our apnea time, this may be where we want to consider changing our apnea time.
15.
Theoretically, the baby should get a mechanical breath at least every 2.4 seconds, right? But just to be on the safe side, I think I'm going to go down to 15. All right, so when you make that switch from CMV to SIMV, there's some things you need to remember. Remember, set your apnea time. Remember, set your high breathing rate alarm. Okay? Should probably, I don't know. I think I had those starred before, and I wasn't comfortable with it. All right, now we can add some pressure support, something new that you've never done before. Let's just add a pressure support of 10. So now I'll add that pressure support of 10. And what I want to do, notice if you look at your pressure curve, there's not a lot of breaths being taken, are there? About 25. I'm going to take some pressure supported breaths, and you can see those displayed. They show up on the flow curve as basically spontaneous breaths, but there is a little bit of pressure support. So we can actually help the baby out. I would say they use this fairly often at blank with the eye, where they'll have a higher pressure level maybe, and then a lower pressure level for the pressure supported breaths. Okay, again, making the change isn't that hard. The slope will apply to both the mechanical breaths and the pressure supported breaths. Typically, a slope of 0 would do what? Okay. So, to give you a good comparison, there's a pressure or a slope of 0.25. There's a slope of 0. Which one do you think the baby's more comfortable breathing with? Probably having a little bit of slope. So again, with the baby log, we did that with our inspiratory time. Here we have an actual control where we can change that. And that's not going to be something that's going to be ordered. Your slope is gonna be up to you. Sensitivity will be up to you.
So you want a gradual slope, I mean, you don't wanna,
Yeah, I think when you
Just
think
get
about
away.
it, the square is blasting the gas in. That just doesn't seem like normal breathing to me. Plus, you're probably doing some, I don't know if anybody's looked at it, you're probably doing a little bit more lung damage. Since, you know, in adults, we're not as concerned about how fast we blast the gas in for lung damage. But in this premature infant population, we should be. Alright, so change to pressure support mode. So if we look at our mode selections, there's CPAP pressure support. Notice there are not that many controls that are available in that mode. Because we're not going to set a rate, we're not going to set a tidal volume. Okay. Basically, you're going to have your inspiratory time, which is a time limit like it was on the baby log with the T-SPO and the PSV mode. It's not setting an inspiratory time, it's just setting a limit. Okay. Slope is still going to apply, PEEP is still going to apply, and then our pressure support level. So let's just use pressures for the baby. Let's say pressure support of 15 and a PEEP of 5. That's probably all you're going to have for an order. Possibly you're going to have FiO2 also. So, I don't know, I'm just still hung up on doing PEEP first. There's my PEEP of 5. There's my pressure support of 15 I said, didn't I? So used to doing 5 and 5 on adults. And then I still have my mode lit up, okay? This is a totally spontaneous mode, just like we talked about with CPAP, so I better start breathing. And what's going to be tricky is breathing and setting my alarms at the same time. Notice on my pressure curve up here, I am getting some extra pressure added to it. We'll go to our alarms. Like I said, in CPAP or pressure support, those totally spontaneous modes, your minute volume is going to vary quite a bit more than in the others. So I'm going to maybe set this a little bit lower and maybe set this a little bit higher. Especially now that I've stopped breathing, it's going to vary a lot. My peak airway pressure, my pressure shouldn't really be much higher than 20. So I'm going to leave this at maybe 30. Just a nice even number. 31 was okay too. My inspiratory tidal volume, look at, if you can see, well, you can see this bigger number. Again, because the patient's determining that. We don't have a set tidal volume. It's going to be all over the place. So you might just watch for a few breaths. What's my highest tidal volume I'm taking? Well, there I got 11. Maybe because I was watching it, I was doing more. So 11 times 2 or something like that. Maybe we want to know if, why would you have a high tidal volume alarm? Why would it be handy? Yeah, if we want to know if their blood gases will probably change if their tidal volume gets too high. Might be another sign that they're doing better too, especially with the little bit of inspiratory pressure here. They may not need that inspiratory pressure anymore if their tidal volumes are too high. Now notice my breathing rate, if you can read that, it's about 26. It was about 48 a few seconds ago. So this mode is really crucial to set that high breathing rate alarm. So 60, I probably don't want this baby breathing any more than 60. I want to know about that. And then the apnea time, you could probably make a case that this might be a time to set the apnea a little tighter. You could set it down to 10 maybe. Again, depends on the baby. If it's a big term infant who has been doing well for a long period of time, I think 15 seconds would be okay. If it's a premature infant that you know if they have a little bit of apnea, their heart rate's going to drop and they desaturate quickly, you might want to set that apnea a little bit tighter. Okay? In the next section there is just to go to CPAP. So let's do a CPAP of 8. All right? This is actually a section that gives people problems a little bit. Try to slow my breathing down here a little bit. All right, suggestions on how I do a CPAP of 8. Okay, so I'm going to change my PEEP to 8. Anything else I need to do? I want CPAP, I don't want pressure support, so I turn my pressure support off. Okay, and I don't know if you noticed, but up here the thing that said pressure support also went off. So now we're in true CPAP mode. So on both this ventilator and the eye, you select the same mode for both CPAP and pressure support. So we really didn't, I've got change mode there, but we really didn't change the mode per se. The key there would be B, where it says dial pressure support to 0 and adjust the CPAP level. And your inspiratory time limit, with a spontaneously breathing patient, I might go a little bit higher on that, just because it's a limit now and not an actual inspiratory time. Just like with the T-SPO on the PSV on the baby log, I used about 1/10 of a second as a cushion there. I was hoping that would actually give us a measured inspiratory time on here, and I couldn't find it. Because then you could use that as a guide for how long the inspiratory time actually is. I think, well, we're almost done. Let's go ahead and take a break, because these next few are totally switch gears here a little bit. So, do I still need a rate? Yeah, about 40. Do I still need a tidal volume?
No.
Pressure control. No, we're actually going to order a PIP now, aren't we? Let's do 24. Oxygen percentage. Yeah, we'll do something. Inspiratory time.
0.45.
Okay. Now we'll have to look at their newer XLs at Mercy on Friday, because there are some upgrades that they've made. They've got a newer software version than we have, and there may be the ability. We'll just have to find out where you can do like different inspiratory times, like 0.43 or 0.44. Pete? Okay. And then pressure support. Not if we're in pressure control mode, but we'll get to that in a different mode. All right. Now this is the tricky part, and we're on section 9 of your checkoff. So under letter A there it says change to PCV plus assist mode. Okay, because there's a PCV plus and there's a PCV plus assist. So we want this one. If you get stuck and you can't remember which is which, PCV plus assist is where you set a PEEP. Okay, or I'm sorry, a PIP. A PIP, but there is no pressure support level there. Okay, so now we want the one without pressure support. So PCV plus assist. I'm just going to go ahead and switch the mode this time. All right. Notice up here again, you confirm your mode change with PCV plus assist. 25% oxygen. You just go across. Oh, why'd you pick 0.45, Amanda? I didn't have to change it. That's all right. I don't think making the changes are going to give you guys much problem on this ventilator. We'll come back to slope. All right, I wanted a PIP of 24, right? This is another little tricky thing about this mode on this ventilator. Actually, it's not real tricky at all on this one. If you want a PIP of 24, you set a PIP of 24, okay? And we want a PEEP of 4. All right, so now we're in a definitely pressure-targeted mode with a volume, tidal volume that's variable. All right. Slope, what do you guys think? You want a little more square or a little less?
A little less,
Okay, so what am I gonna do with my slope?
down to 20
Take it up?
or up.
It's a little change in our flow there. Didn't really affect our tidal volume too much, but again, we're looking at a pressure target mode here. Alarms, my current minute volume is 0.24, like a popular minute volume today. I'm gonna turn this one up a little bit, 8.19. Right. And maybe this one I'm going to turn a little tighter. We were on CPAP earlier. I want it a little tighter. This now, my pressure there is 24, should be. I maybe put that at 34. There's really no real reason, because this is pressure targeted, there's no real reason for our PIP to be any higher than our setting, other than something being wrong. Inspiratory tidal volume, we're getting 10, so I'm going to turn this down to maybe 16. That's not going to apply really in this mode. I'll just get ready for the next mode. I might back off in my apnea time since we're Untitled CO2 is the only thing on. We're not going to deal with that this semester, so don't worry about limits 2 here or alarms 2. All right, I'm going to double check, make sure I change my rate. Which means I better go back and change my minute volume. Tidal volume is about 10. I'm going to get that 40 times a minute, so I'm going to bump this up about point. Ooh, jump there. You guys didn't catch me. So when you know, there's some little hints or things that I go by. Like if you, those of you done your check off, you know, I usually hand you a card. If you hand me the card back, or you say okay or something like that, you better have done everything. You know, just double check. Especially probably on this ventilator, it's the most crucial because it is kind of easy to maybe not confirm one of your changes, or you didn't really change the mode when you thought you did. So just take the card and say, okay, do I have this? Do I have this? Do I have this? Do I have this? Do I have that? Before you say, okay, I'm done. Now, in real life, again, clinical setting, after you set up a ventilator, you make a change, you're going to go through a whole ventilator check, and that should help you remind you to make any last-minute adjustments that you maybe have forgotten to do. A rate change, a little bit different than the baby log. That's probably why I have you do a rate change. Let's just say we're going to change the rate from 40 to 30. You just change the rate. There's no expiratory time to fiddle with to get your rate. Which alarms are going to change if I change the rate? Minute ventilation shouldn't affect my PIP, my peak pressure alarm. It shouldn't affect my high tidal volume alarm. So when you go to your alarm limits, you can maybe save a little bit of time. You turn down the rate, so I'm going to turn down my low minute volume and maybe turn down my high minute volume. Those are the kinds of things I kind of want you thinking about, okay? And then we have, in this semester, we'll do a pressure control plus pressure support mode. Okay, so you might want to highlight or underline A there again. Now we're going to use the PCV plus, and depending on what's available in my first row there. Let's just do some new settings. Let's do 45 here. We'll do a PIP of 22. I'm going to go to 21%. Maybe an inspiratory time of 0.40. PIP of 3. And now we'll have pressure support, and we'll say.
This is section 5?
This is 10. No, 11.
Oh, okay.
Hope the Roman numeral's throwing you off.
No, I was looking at the wrong part.
All right, so PCV plus. So notice again, if you get mixed up, with PCV plus, I can set pressure support. That wasn't there when you did PCV plus assist. Okay, turn this down to 21. Inspiratory time, what is it, 0.4. 3 to 45. Come back to slope, a pip of, say 22. Peep of 3. Pressure support of 10. And then don't forget to confirm your mode if you're doing this. This isn't the normal way I do it. I usually just change the mode and then change everything. So don't forget to confirm your mode, all right? So now we have PCV plus pressure support up here, okay? So that's what, again, double check, make sure you have your mode. That slope, actually I'm gonna make it come in a little bit quicker. So let's turn down our slope a little bit. A little squared off there, but I want a little better oxygenation. Okay. And then our alarms, right? Ooh, I'm about topped off here, so I better turn that one off before it makes a noise. I don't like my peak airway pressure much higher than 10 above. That one's okay. Now I'm in a mode where they're going to be spontaneous breaths. We're on a rate of 45. I don't want them taking too many more spontaneous breaths. So if they take about 20 more than what I have set, I want to know about it. Sometimes that's how I think of my alarms. Okay, when do I want to know about something? When do I want the ventilator to tell me about something? It's pretty stupid. It's only going to alarm when I tell it to, or when I set the parameters. So you can't read my mind at all. So it's up to you to set, and you're not going to get orders on where to set the alarms. It's going to be entirely up to you. You may, this will happen to you probably, you'll set them where you want them for your shift, you'll come back tomorrow, and somebody's changed them for where that's their prerogative, okay? So you might want to change them back to where you like them for, I mean, it's your responsibility to take care of that patient for the next 8 or 12 hours. Take care of them. That's the best way you can. And then the other thing you really need to know how to do is put the ventilator in standby, okay? So let's say we're going to take the baby to surgery, or we're going to take them on a transport somewhere. What this allows you to do is, the newer generation ventilators actually, if you shut them down, the power down, and you power it back up, you've lost all your settings. So this allows us to keep our settings. So, start standby button is down here. Press standby, it's in yellow. It comes on with an alarm to make sure, are you sure you want to do this? Press your alarm reset, and then we're in standby. You get kind of a big yellow, like I said, when we were at clinical the day Mercy changed out a lot to the newer ventilators, and I put a big sign on the ventilator saying it's standby, because I want people to get used to the fact that if I put the patient on here, and they start to breathe, it's not going to restart the ventilator. They can breathe spontaneously, but it doesn't trigger the ventilator on. A little bit of history. This was a feature that was on older ventilators, and a lot of companies took them off because they